I watched the movie way too many times, but I also played the video game more times. I could never beat the third round, and it's still a hang-up for me even in this moment. But this is why I did the movie, because if I did the movie, then technically I won. I won the game.
I never got past the elephant graveyard either.
Oh my God, so you played it too? It's a really hard game.
Hi folks, David Crow with Den of Geek here, and I'm at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park to go inside the new Lion King movie Mufasa. We'll be speaking with the cast, and what better way to mark our trip to the Pride Lands than realizing some rhinos have sneaked into the shot. And I can't say I've ever done an interview in a place quite like this. I think a good place to begin is the Lion King is just as a story is so beloved, it's almost an institution. But for each of you, what was your first memory of experiencing the original film?
My first experience of the film was the VHS version, and I was probably around 3 or 4, so it was maybe 97 or 98, and I just remember being deeply moved by it, and I felt very included by it. And way before I even knew this was ever going to become a reality for me, being part of this wonderful family to tell this story, it's always been my favorite Disney film.
I mean, I don't really remember. I have a horrible memory. But I do think that I remember playing the video game a lot. I watched the movie way too many times. But I also played the video game more times. And on Genesis Sega, and I could never beat the third round. And it's still a hang-up for me even in this moment. But this is why I did the movie, because if I did the movie, then technically I won. I won the game.
I never got past the elephant graveyard either.
Oh my God, so you played it too?
Yeah,
it's a really hard game.
It
This game
is.
must be
I think I'm gonna see if I can get a Genesis Sega here, and we should start playing it during lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I don't remember the exact first time, but I just remember being on the edge of my mom's bed, and she had one of those old black TVs on top of her dresser, and I would just sit there and watch it over and over again on VHS, and it was like an arrow through the heart every time, I watched Simba see his dad die, and I'd cry, and I'd laugh, and I'd rewind. So yeah, it's magical to me.
Aaron, James Earl Jones is obviously so beloved in the original, and the 2019 one as well, and I'm curious, did you feel any need, or did you have any interest in going back and studying what he did vocally, or was it maybe the opposite?
I studied James Earl Jones, period. Whether it be his extensive filmography or his extensive work in the theater or his voice work, he is a guiding light for me and my artistry, point blank, period. So of course that resulted in being gifted this opportunity, really being guided by the original portrayal of Mufasa, this iconic, beloved, cherished, and celebrated character that he originated.
Remember who you are. You are my son, and the one true king.
That was my guiding light. That kept me on the path whenever I was unsure, whenever I didn't have the answers. And actually the nerves that I had were perfect, because I was portraying an adolescent version of this great king. And certainly in my experience of being an adolescent, I was unsure. I didn't have it all figured out. And I was searching for answers to questions, and I had a lot of questions. Hopefully I served him, and hopefully I served this character.
Similarly, Kelvin, you are playing an iconic character, but very different from what audiences know. I mean, he's not even called Scar in this film. And I'm curious, what is the creative opportunity there in exploring what it means to be a villain with character audiences think they know?
No one's a villain without having a heart, you know what I mean? There's villains because they've been hurt at some point, and they've sat in their hurt for so long that it made them angry. And my job was to figure out, well, where were all the arrows pointing to? There's an arrow pointing at his dad. There's an arrow pointing at Mufasa. There's an arrow pointing at a lack of community and support. There's an arrow pointing at just the way the politics works in the Pride Lands, you know what I mean? As an arrow pointing at Sarabi, you know? So, like, all of these people were complicit in his confusion, but at the same time, as we come of age, we have to start to understand what accountability means. And I think with that whole villain thing and humanizing or lionizing him was trying to navigate that our understanding of what we're supposed to be given versus what we need to earn.
Tiffany, with the original Lion King is obviously very Shakespearean. It's influenced by Hamlet. I'm curious, did you talk with Barry about any classics, whether it's, you know, Shakespeare or otherwise, and what really informed the triangle of these three lions we have in this movie?
It's a great question. I did not discuss that with him. I wish I had. I wish we'd had that kind of a deep conversation. No, I don't even know that we talked much about the dynamic between the three of them in our conversations. But it is very Shakespearean, you know what I mean? I think it is. Yeah, at the center of this is like this brother love story, and then there's this like love triangle, and it's you know, I'll shoot an arrow back at you. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what I can do. You know what I mean? In 1.5, maybe you don't know what else happens between the two of them. You know what I mean? Maybe we can get really deep in Shakespearean with this. What do you guys think?
I think I need to find some arrows, start shooting around, you know what I mean? But no, yeah.
Well, Aaron, I know you worked with Barry before. What is the difference between working with him in live action and in a digital world like this?
That's a really beautiful question. Barry is exactly the same beautiful human being, an artist and filmmaker, regardless of the capacity that he's working, whether it be in the medium of working on animation or a limited series or a film. He leads with light, he leads with love, and his number one priority is ensuring that everybody feels safe, because safety in the context of, well, period, but safety in the context of art is only going to be conducive to people doing their best work. And we had a really, really wonderful time.
It's been 5 years since, one way to look at it, since Timon and Pumbaa were the kingmakers of the Lion King.
Yes.
That's how
we talk about it.
And we're back in this world. Were you surprised or delighted to be invited back into the universe?
Actually, both surprised and delighted.
Yeah, both of those things.
Yeah. I heard it was an origin story, and so I was like, I don't know how we would play into that necessarily. And then I was excited to hear about a narrative framing device that utilized us in some
God, I love a narrative framing
Love
device.
a narrative framing device.
When they first said it to me, they said, oh, Timon and Pumbaa are the narrators. And for some reason in my head, I thought we were talking directly to the audience.
Oh, that's funny.
You know, which I thought, I was like, that's a bold choice.
We almost are at times.
That's true.
You get to break the fourth wall a little bit. In
We do, but I literally pictured us like talking to camera.
Yeah, like sitting in chairs in front of a
Exactly,
fireplace,
exactly.
reading a big book together.
So it's not exactly that. But.
Well, literally the animals sitting in chairs like this.
It's true.
Yeah.
So Mufasa is obviously largely a prequel, but for your characters, it is also a sequel with a decent time jump.
Yeah.
Do you think time has made Timon and Pumbaa wiser?
Oh, no.
Not at all.
No,
if anything, they've probably gotten a little like lazy. It seems like they've settled into a kind of lazier lifestyle than when they had to be out there fending for themselves.
Exactly.
They seem pretty comfortable living in the new Pride Rock kingdom.
They seem very desperate in this one
Yes.
to like be in more of the movie.
Yeah, you feel like they're not getting like the gratification out of life that maybe they used to when they were on their own. They need attention. They feel needy.
Definitely.
They feel a little needy.
Very needy, yeah.
Yeah, do you see them as esteemed advisors in Simba's court?
No,
No,
not at all.
no. They're like court
They're like
jesters.
Court jesters, I was going to
Yeah.
say. More like clowns that you
Yeah.
keep around. Friends, kind of just friends. If they're those friends where you're like, they're not bad. I guess we should hang out with them, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they are, though, like, let's call them royal uncles. And could you talk a little bit about, their relationship with Kiara, Simba's daughter in the movie?
We're telling Kiara the story of her grandfather, That's the framing device of the movie Mufasa, who obviously she never met because he died in the first one.
And Rafiki too is doing.
And, yes.
I'd say Rafiki's doing more of the emotional heavy lifting.
You're
when
right.
it comes
You're
to
right.
the
That's
telling
fair.
of the
Very
story.
fair. Yeah.
But John's not here, so we'll take it.
Exactly. And Timon and Pumbaa are trying to insert themselves into the story.
Yeah.
Do you think they're giving, based on what we see in the movie, Kiara a sound sense of history in the kingdom?
I think Rafiki is.
Rafiki, yeah, I would say Timon and Pumbaa are what you would call unreliable narrators.
Yeah, exactly.
Who really want to center themselves in the story more
Yes.
than anything. And I relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels very fitting that they become kind of a Greek chorus in this movie.
Exactly, yes.
Mm-hmm. We talked a lot about Greek choruses during the making of.
We ate a lot of souvlaki.
But that is what they are. You're right.
Well, what about for y'all personally? Was it smoother or different coming back and recording together again on the second go-round?
It was, for me at least, pretty intimidating when we started, because to step into the shoes of Nathan Lane, who gave an iconic voice performance in the first one, which is such a classic, I was pretty worried about that. Really relied on Jon Favreau, our director, to help me and help us find our own version of it. So I think this time we at least had the foundation of knowing what our version of it was, and Barry just encouraged us to build off of that, improvise a ton, and just have fun.
Yeah, same thing. Like Jon Favreau, is from comedy. I almost think like the comedy was the part of the first one he seemed like the most comfortable with in an interesting way, because it was the thing that I think he had done the most of. And so he really had a lot of very specific takes and opinions onto as to how the timing and the dynamic should be. So it took us weeks of recording the first one before I felt like we got anything that was remotely usable, basically. And then with this one, we had already established that. So it was a lot. It was honestly a lot easier to just kind of jump in and riff and play off of each other, because
Yeah, well, you Billy, you were touching on this a moment ago. Do you feel like you have more ownership of the characters this time, and that you can kind of make them more your own versus...
I bought the rights to Timon and Pumbaa from Disney.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do something very politically incorrect with them next time. No. I don't know. Nathan Lane to me owns Timon forever, and we're just doing our take on it. But I did feel, like Seth said, more confident going into it this time. The first time I was literally calling Jon Favreau after we would record and saying, "Oh my God, I was terrible. I'll come back and do it again." And I didn't feel a need to do that this time, so that was nice.
Yeah.
Well, what do we have here?
Move your head and let me see. Come on. Oh, this is the thing.
What thing?